Hey everyone! As you may notice, this is my first ever video on this channel, so I'm just going to go in a quick introduction about my channel, and then we'll go straight into the game. So my channel is basically about talking over some of the Guild Wars 2 content that's being put out. A lot of it hasn't been detailed enough, and we get to see awesome gameplay, but we don't get to hear quite a lot about the game. So I'm just going to be trying to do my best to sort of talk over some of the things that are shown in the video that haven't been sort of talked about quite enough. So the idea is sort of to just create a bit of a debate, a bit of a place to sort of talk about the game really and about the content. Yeah, and basically I'm going to be doing that over different gameplay videos, just maybe even going over trailers or just putting some content in the background, just talking about general concerns that the community is coming up with or updates, etc, etc. So let's get straight into this video. As you may know, you've probably seen the video already, and if you're looking at it again, you found it so awesome that you just had to watch it again and you stumbled across mine. If not, this is the underwater combat in Guild Wars 2, and in this video especially, this is taken from GameSpot, and it's just the game developers going over the underwater combat and sort of talking about how it works, how it feels, and all the ups and downs, and just basically showing it to the community because everyone's been talking about what's underwater combat going to be like. In underwater combat, obviously, you got more to worry about. The Z-axis, because obviously you got your X and your Y-axis, and now you're looking at your Z-axis, your whole 3D vision around you. You can be attacked from beneath, you can be attacked from above, you can be attacked from anywhere really because you're underwater. Obviously this brings a lot more to the game. They've been talking about underwater dynamic events, they've been talking about underwater cities. There's going to be loads to do underwater. It's basically going to be like a completely new game, but it's not going to feel like a new game. When you go underwater, your skills change to underwater skills. So nothing changes about the game. It's just a few tweaks are made so you find it easier to fight underwater. But the only problem I see with this is that how much choice have we got underwater with our skills? Because you can imagine on land, we've only got a set amount of skills that we could use. I mean, on most games we used to having about 30 different skills shown on our screen that we could use at any one time. And in this game we've got about 5 really, because the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are more sort of buffer skills, help skills. They're not actual powers. So underwater, will we get the same amount of choice and the same amount of a lot of skills to choose from for underwater combat, or would it just be a set amount and they've mainly focused on land? So that's one hiccup I can see, and that could make underwater combat get a bit dull really, because if you're using the same skills over and over again, you find it a bit less diverse, I suppose. When you come across different enemies, you want to do different things, but you can only choose from a certain amount of set skills. And also dodging. Dodging is a strange one really, because if you don't know, you can in Guild Wars 2 you can press W, A, or D twice, or S, and if you press it twice, you basically dodge in that direction. And this is used to just dodge attacks basically. And underwater this works as well, but would it work as effective? Simply because you're underwater, there's less likely you'll be able to actually dodge away from something, because generally the mobs probably would be a lot more, flexible. They'll be able to move around a lot better than you could, really. So I reckon this isn't as good as on land. So dying underwater, this is quite a interesting topic really, because when you die underwater you go into a down state still, and you obviously have different death skills that you could use to revive yourself. Now the one I'm concerned with is, you'll see him die here in just a minute, and he uses a skill to bring himself to above the water. Now you could imagine if you're, and also he talks about in this video, basically being able to swim stupidly far. You can literally just in some areas you can point yourself downwards and just swim for like about 10 minutes down underwater. That's how deep it is. So if one of the skills when you get into a down state is to get yourself above water and sort of rally yourself by being above water, if you're that far down and you're trying to like do a quest or something down that far, if you do this skill to rally yourself and you're having to come back up for 10 minutes, is that going to be effective? And because if that's the most effective way of bringing yourself back to life, then are there going to be other really effective ways of bringing yourself back to life? on the other death skills, basically. So these a couple of problems with maybe problems. I'm not quite sure yet, but with underwater combat. But other than that, it does look absolutely amazing. So now I'm going to go on to something a tad bit more interesting. I came across a developer's interview, just about, I think it was on the Guild Wars Fan Day, and there was this German chap basically giving an interview to about three of the devs, and he basically asked them, "What is your favorite thing about Guild Wars?" And whether it's just a beautiful tree to the most awesome dynamic event you know. And one of them said they all said different things, but one of them said something that he shouldn't have, but he didn't give anything away officially because he just used the word thing instead of saying what it was. But there's been a lot of speculation about the weapons in Guild Wars 2, and one of the things I think is going to happen is when you get a weapon, say if it's a legendary weapon, that weapon can change out your skills, just just that weapon alone. So you can imagine you're into your skills trainer, you're buying like loads of different types of skills or just learning different types of skills, and then you fight this mob, you pick up this weapon or this boss or whatever you fight, pick up the weapon, equip it, and it changes your skill bar. Say if you're an elementalist and you got fire skills, you pick up this awesome fire stuff, and your whole skill bar's changed, and that just absolutely looks amazing to me. And whether they've done stuff like that for underwater combat as well, because the necromancer in here, you can see some of the underwater skills he's got. They're sort of similar to the ones he has on land, but the elementalist one's quite interesting because they've got a skill where you can boil the water like around the enemy, like true underwater skills. Like in other games, like for example, they talk about not being able to cast a fireball underwater because you're underwater. Fire can't work underwater. In other games, you would just be able to do that. You use the same skills you on land and water. So I wonder if they do ultimate, like legendary underwater weapons where you can, create like a whirlpool or create an underwater tornado or something, crazy with this amazing weapon. So, that alone would just be amazing. Now, the last point I'm going to go on to in this video is dynamic events underwater. Because we know that the dynamic events consist of maybe changing some vendors that you can go to, some cities you can access, and they have said that you can access cities underwater. There are going to be large cities underwater. There are going to be dynamic events underwater, and there are going to be different vendors that you can only access whilst underwater. So we all know that dynamic events can happen, and they can scale up to eventually taking over certain cities, taking over certain towns, and taking over basically certain vendors. So if this dynamic event happens underwater and takes over these vendors, in the city under the water, I think it will be quite a lot harder to overcome these, problems underwater, and rally the city, take the city back, simply because I reckon a lot of people will take on a lot more mobs, because when you think that it's a massive team game, a lot of people will be involved with it, and there's going to be a lot of mobs swimming all over the place, on this Z-axis they're talking about. So if everyone doesn't play to their best, basically, I reckon it'll be stupidly hard to overtake these cities in the water. I don't think it's a problem as such, but I think it's something to be looked at as, underwater is really important because there's probably going to be important vendors underwater, and these dynamic events are going to be amazing, I think, for the underwater combat because no one's done it before. It's something completely new. That's going to be insane to look at. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to wrap this video up here. I'll probably go on to part 2 of this video and talk a bit more. So, because this video, I've taken this video from GameSpot and it's come in 2 10-minute parts. So, I'll probably go on to a part 2. So, if you want to see that, I'll probably link it in the description or put an annotation on this video when it's up. So, please head over to that. And as you know, this is my first video, so I would appreciate some feedback if you could, on the sound, on the quality, and on basically how well it's produced, so I can improve in future. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll come back on the next video.